Hello everyone, my name is Niels, Environment Artist at Sierra Division, and welcome back to the next chapter. In this chapter, I'll be going over the base setup in Fusion 360 to get you started, and then we'll jump right into creating the blockout for our model. For the setup, I won't be going in depth and explain every little detail in Fusion 360. We already have a video online where I go more in depth. Feel free to check it out. It'll be linked here. Great, let's get started. I'll just go over the preferences and units, show you a little bit about the parametric modeling, what the differences are. So first up, you want to go here to your icon, click it and click Preferences. Then you'll be greeted by General and Default Units. That's the only two we'll be changing right now. So for Design, you have Design History. And for this tutorial, I'll be capturing the design history, so parametric modeling. Usually I keep it disabled, but for the sake of this tutorial, I think it'll be handy to keep it on. Then we want to go to Design at Default Units and change it to centimeters. You can use millimeters as well, since our dimensions of the model are in millimeters, but I just like to use centimeters for some reason. I'll just briefly show you the differences between direct modeling and parametric modeling. So just hit OK and apply. If you change anything in the settings, you just have to create a new file by pressing Ctrl N, and then it'll get the timeline. So for parametric modeling, I'll give you a brief example. Don't worry about anything that I'm doing right now. Get some quick bevels here. Another one here, and another one here. So now you can see the timeline has changed. So you can see exactly what you did. If you want to go back and change something in the timeline, you can scroll through it like so. Or you can just double click a feature, and then you can, for example, make it a little less. And then it changed on the model. With direct modeling, you don't have these options. So on the screen right now, you'll see a little animated timeline of what we'll be going for. Just a simple blockout with some main shapes. Of course, this isn't the entire blockout yet, but I'll be guiding you through the steps. After that, I'll let you refine the blockout yourself using references. And if you're stuck at this stage or you don't know how to continue, the source files of the blockout will be provided as well. Cool, let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is create a basic cube with our rough dimensions. So 58 times 127 times 110 millimeters. This is pretty much like a bounding box. You can do this by creating a sketch, clicking this button right here, and selecting the plane we want to draw the sketch on. Make sure your axes are correct. Then we can create a rectangle. Select center point rectangle. Click and then just move your mouse. Then we can select the dimensions of the model. So the first one we can type in is 58 millimeters, so 5.8 centimeters. And then we can head over to the 110, so 11 centimeters, just like this. Press enter, and your sketch will be finished. After that, you can press E on your keyboard as a shortcut, or press this button right here. Extrude it out for 12.7 centimeters. Right now we have our base dimension box, so like a bounding box. And the next thing we can do is add some images. We can import some images for the sides. You can import front and back as well, but for now I'll just use the side images. Try to use some clear reference images that you found that shows the clear sides without too much perspective warping. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's always easier like this. You can always analyze other references and make adjustments to your model accordingly. To add images, we just go over to this image icon, as you might have guessed. Click it, insert from computer, and then select left, right, or any images that you need. For now, I'll click on the left one and press open. Then you have to select the face that you want to put your image on. You can select any face of your model or planar faces from your axes. I'll just click the right side of the model. After that, you can scale it to your bounding box. This isn't perfect, but it's better than if you don't have any blueprints, for example, or pure orthographic images. It always helps. So try to line it up as much as you can. Yep, that looks pretty good. Top touching the top, this one touching the bottom, and then we can just move it so it touches the side as well. And then press OK. You can do the same thing for the left side and import your other image. Then it should look something like this. As you can see, the dimensions of the model aren't 100% correct, but that's what you get when you just have one resource for dimensions. The next step is to add the base shape from the bounding box. We can do that by creating another sketch and selecting the plane of the model we want to sketch on. We'll be taking this side as a base. Reason being, it's always easier to cut from the model than it is to add to the model. So pick the least complex shape. So let's create a sketch on this plane. Just click it and you're ready to sketch. We can just select the line tool and follow as close to the model as possible. We don't want to get the small chamfers in. We can do that later on the model itself. The idea is just to get a main shape. So let's get started. Just click a point here, go straight down. If the model or reference is a little bit crooked or wavy, just create a straight line. It'll usually be straight in real life as well. So select a point and go straight down. You'll see your little icon here. That's when you know when it's perfectly straight and perpendicular to the bottom line. There we go. Don't worry about this little curve here. We'll get that one in a little bit later on. Then we can connect these two. Go to the top. If you click on a point and then move your mouse over another point and you go straight up, you'll see a little dotted line. So it's kind of locked to that point. You can click it and then connect them. There you go. After that, we can get this shape in. Go straight up to the right side. Press OK. Before we're going into this more complex curve, let's try to round up the edges here first. We can do that by clicking this button here and selecting the point we want to curve. You can move the arrow to adjust it, then press enter, and then do it all again for the other one. Just try to get it as close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, because you'll have a little bit of perspective warping in your images anyways. There we go. And the last one here. That's good enough. For this curve here, we don't want to be using the normal line tool. Just head over to this one, and what this one does is create a smoother version of a line. We don't want that one right now, so just cancel it. So let's see how we can make this curve right here. So I guess we only need one point somewhere around here, so click this point, click here, and then connect it to the last point. Don't worry about it not being perfect right now. You can press the M for move and select the little handles and just edit them, adjust a little bit. You can select points and move them on the model. And then you can see it's pretty decent. It's not 100% perfect, but it's all we need. Then you can press OK for your move and copy. and finish the sketch. Now that we have the sketch on the plane, we can press extrude again, or this button, and it'll automatically have our sketched image right here. So we can click it, drag the arrow, and if you select the plane right here, it'll snap right through it. Now we don't want to cut the model, right? You can see it's red, it's cutting the model right now. We want to have a new body. So click this operation here, select new body, and press OK. So we can't really see anything right now, but we can select our bounding box and press V on the keyboard to hide it. And there we go, we have our little main shape already. You can hide the canvases to see it a little bit better. There you go, looks pretty good already. So the next step is to go from this, what we have now, our base, to this by cutting and adding some stuff. So if we take the references, we'll be adding just the main shape, no lenses, no screws, knobs, buttons, whatever. Just the main shapes. So this shape right here that we'll add. This part here. And the little bottom piece as well as this part. If you look side by side, it's kind of similar. So let's get started. So we want to split our model in half first. Well, not exactly half. If you go over to the references, remember we did a modeling guideline for the split, not being 50-50. So let's get that in first. The way I usually cut up my models is there's a bunch of different ways, but I like to create a cube or a box and select the plane. Any plane would technically do, but for now we want to cut it in half, so this one is the most logic. Click it, and then it'll snap to the middle point. You can use the middle point right now, don't worry about it, and just draw out a random box. The size doesn't really matter. Instead of join, we want to create a new body and press OK. Then we have a completely random box sitting on our model, but don't worry about that now. We'll just use a face as a splitting tool. You can do that by modify and then split body, or Shift S in my case. Select your body you want to split, splitting tools, and you can select any face that you want. And what that'll do is create a cut. But if you remember, we don't want it half, so you can move this face and then you can offset the face by pressing Q and dragging it just a little bit off center. That looks kind of good. Pressing Shift S for split body, select the body, select the face, press OK. Now, as you can see, the split isn't exactly in the middle. This is our middle line right here, but it's kind of offset, and that's exactly what we want. We don't need this box anymore for now, so you can just hide it or delete it. And we can continue in getting the other shapes in, which is this part right here. And it's quite easy to do that because if you draw imaginary plane, you can see it's kind of level with each other. So we can take advantage of that. Let's just create a new sketch, this time on the face right here. Select your line, and you can just select this point or this point, doesn't matter. Drag it out and make sure it's perpendicular. It'll snap to it. We don't need the line tool anymore. We can select a circle right now to get this little curve in here. And it defaults on center point circle, but we want the 2-point circle. Click it, and then you can just select any points, any 2 points on your model. It's easier for us to enable the left side to see. And you can see this line here on your model. You can put your first point there, snap back to the left view, and just eyeball it basically. Yep, this looks alright. And then you can just confirm it. Now it does kind of look like nothing right now, but if we connect this line right here and drag it all the way down to have it perpendicular again, click it, and then finish the sketch. As usual, it'll create a point for you to extrude again. Right now, because these two aren't connected, you could technically remove this curve right here, but just select your two faces and drag it out. To make it easier, we can now hide this part or delete it, because we technically don't need it anymore. I'm gonna hide the canvas real quick. So I'll just hide it. And you still have your sketch profile. So we can press E to extrude, drag it, and click on the face to snap to it. We don't want to join, we want a new body instead. And press OK. After you press the new body, your sketch disappears, but don't worry, all of your sketches are in the sketch folder. To make it a bit more accurate, we can already put these curves in. The reason why I put these in already is because they're quite big as comparison to like any small curve on a model. It doesn't matter if it's big, it contributes to the silhouette, so that's why we're going to put it in. We can do that by selecting the edge, make it visible again, and then just dragging it so it kind of matches. Of course, you have the perspective warping of your reference image. So you just have to look at your images, your references, and just eyeball it again. Same for this one. If you want it to be equal, you can drag the arrow and you can select your other fillet or curve, and it'll be the exact same size. Let me hide my canvas so you can see it better. There we go. For the next part, we're gonna get this piece in right here. I always like to get in the biggest shapes first and then focus on the smaller detail, like this one right here. So let's get started. We can analyze it. You can see it runs kind of level with the edge of our curve. And then there's just a little space up top that's not used. So we basically are going to create this shape here on our profile. So we just create a new sketch again, this time on the front. There we go. And we want to have some guidelines first. So we're going to change the line type to this one here. Just click it and it'll activate, it'll highlight. These are guidelines. That means it won't be part of your sketch, so you won't be able to extrude them out. The first thing we want to do is project. You press P on your keyboard, and we want to have this line right here. This is an important line because it runs level with the curve here. We can press OK after the project. Press L for line, make sure this is still highlighted, and extend it out. The next part is to project this one here and click OK. Then we can kind of eyeball the distance here. So let's just draw a line. I think this is pretty much okay. And make sure it's perpendicular again. Right now this is not perpendicular. You might want to change it up a little bit, zoom in if it doesn't work, and press OK. So now we can create another line down to create the midpoint from. If you see a triangle, that means you have the middle of that line. We just want to create a quick middle line. So triangle means middle. Just extend it and press OK. Next up, we want to get the shape in, the curved shape, and the best way to do that is to go to Create, Slot, and then Overall Slot. First point, you select the endpoint, the other endpoint. The second endpoint doesn't really matter because we're only going to use 1/2. So click OK. As you can see, we put it up the middle slot here. And then we can just drag it out to the guideline we made. Now, I'm still in guideline mode. If you accidentally click OK and you see, oh no, this is still a guideline, you don't have to redo it. You can just go to your Move tool by pressing M and then selecting the lines you want, and then you can change them right here. If you're happy with the result, you can click Finish Sketch, rotate it around, look at it, and then just extrude it by pressing E, snap it to that one. You can move it a little bit further because we have a little gap here. So make sure it goes into your model, and when it goes in, it's standards to cut, but you want to create a new body. Then press OK. There we go. Now we have this part in. For the next step, we have our references up again. I want you to try some shape yourself. Of course, only the shapes that are connected to the main body. So forget about the lenses here. Try to focus on shapes like these. The round circle. And if you're up for it, you can also create this part right here. I'll be going over this part, but try to get these shapes in first, the little circle and cylinder. Make sure to analyze your references and keep in mind that this is just a blockout. So you don't want to go adding the curves. Pay attention to the distance between the circle and this part. Know that they're two different objects. Just don't connect them yet. Check how it curves. It's flat here and goes into a curve here. What could you best use? Maybe a cube where you chamfer the edges, another slot where you make a sketch. Try that yourself, and then I'll see you guys again.